Thank you again for joining Accelerate Digital Transformation from Trend to Business, Critical Need for Banking and Insurance. It is my pleasure to introduce today's first presenter, Steve Lay. Steve, you now have the floor.
All right. Well, let's just get right into digital transformation. And really a lot of my comments come from multiple conversations with clients here at Microsoft and hearing from them, and primarily financial services, hearing from them what challenges they're facing, monitoring the trends, and what we're seeing specific to digital transformation. There's a lot of noise around digital transformation. What is it exactly, and how does it fit in? So hopefully this model will be very useful to you to understand digital transformation a bit better and have a framework to think about it. So when we look at the financial services trends, and this one probably it leans a bit more toward banking, but nevertheless, if you think about kind of the core functions in the middle, a lot of the orbiting trends apply to both banking and insurance. Certainly the open API banking, or more broadly thought of as the partner ecosystem, is a key trend. Certainly the fintech partnerships or insurtech partnerships have been seen in all sorts of lights, certainly as competitors, as obstacles, and as contributors and part of the partner ecosystem. So there's been this long journey in terms of how to really deal with the fintechs. The rise of augmented intelligence bots, robo-advisors, other AI type tools, we really see that as accelerating at the moment, along with predictive analytics, and then certainly blockchain and shared digital ledgers become more of an enabling technology, even across the partner ecosystem. And then branch of the future, or really what do we do with our distribution? On the insurance side is what do we do with our agents, and on the banking side it's really what do we do with our branches. So when we look at the focus, most companies, most firms are kind of missing the big opportunity for business transformation. So they're very focused in this day-to-day viewing digital transformation as a mechanism to improve efficiency, maybe develop some partnerships, and you can see here the little graphic. Fintechs play a role in enhancing customer experiences for banks. Not really much on the insurance side. We see a little bit of it related to claims. We see a little bit around some of the process improvements, maybe some of the onboarding elements, but for the most part, it's still a pretty traditional relationship between insurers and customers, and frankly, banks and their customers. So there's kind of a one-size-fits-most. And again, the technologies are being used to improve efficiencies, but not really go deep in terms of looking at how the businesses will be transformed. So that's really what I want to talk about today, is what does that transformation look like? And if we just look at the fintech revolution, more and more banks are seeing that fintechs are really about collaboration. And so it is about building out that ecosystem. So when we look at digital transformation, and the broad definition is really turning day-to-day activities into data. So it's really just about taking things that we do all the time that have been very analog. Can we convert them into data? That's everything from customers coming into Starbucks to manufacturing items that are going down the line to call center events in a banking call center to an insurance claim. If all of those steps along the way can be turned into data, then they can be digitally transformed. And there's a ton of that going on. We see that across the board. And we really see it in two ways. We see it across trusted networks. And a trusted network is just any company that's really connecting those who have a need with those who have a resource to fill that need. So if you look at Airbnb or Uber or Amazon or Kickstarter, those are really those connective type applications or experiences, I guess. And they add some trust in there. So in the VRBO model or Airbnb model, they hold the money until the customer's satisfied, and then they pay the landlord essentially. And so they create some trust. Now, there's an opportunity for much more trust to be created by insurance companies in particular in a lot of the transactions that are emerging in trusted networks. That's a conversation for another day. I just want to focus here on when we look at these digital transformations happening, they happen again across the trusted networks and within each brand. So Wells Fargo or HSBC or MetLife, they're all creating their own digital experience inside of their four walls or inside of the services that they're delivering. And that's important, right? It drives efficiency, it drives a better understanding of customers and a better experience for customers. But it's all within the vertical. So it's within financial services, it's within retail, it's within transportation, it's within delivery, or it's within the brand itself. Where we believe this is going is really much more granular than we see today. So where we see this going is really a deeply customized user experience at the intersection between a particular niche and a particular set of activities. And so this is a very simplistic model. You could build this out extensively, where the activities along the top are sort of everyday kinds of activities. So I have, as one of the niches, a retired environmentalist who apparently likes to scuba dive, or there could be an experience around the scuba diving retired environmentalist called Diving for Good. That would be the experience. Or a high school student that walks to school. So these are very basic kinds of experiences, but you could see how this would build out. So you could see how it would build out to a comptroller for an oil company might have a particular experience. And so it is effectively infinite. And what we see is that tens of thousands of companies are working to build out not only the brand experiences that we just talked about, but the customer experiences that really fit this model, the niche down the side and the activities along the top. So they're identifying an activity and a niche, and they're building an experience for that. What I think is interesting to think about then is, okay, what are the functionally aligned capabilities that we just talked about, the financial services, retail, transportation, delivery, lodging, and so on? Those actually become layers in the customer experience. So if you think about a Diving for Good, there are any number of aspects to that. There could be a financial services part of it, there could be a retail part of it, there could be a transportation part of it, there could be any number of these lodging. All of these layers of capability really go into making up that experience. So to take this a step further and just talk about one of these, so building a better bakery. And we selected this one just because it has a little bit of a retail banking feel and a little bit of a business banking feel, but it's easy to kind of wrap your head around. So what would it look like to build out a better bakery experience, a specific customer experience for the bakery manager? What would that look like if in fact you had all of the functionally aligned capabilities, so insurance, investment, purchasing, government services, delivery, shopping, transportation, budgeting, if that were all available, and then you have some of these big data elements like traffic, weather, community calendars, cars, bus schedules, social media, etc. You have all that big data, and then you have forgive me for saying Microsoft, I do work for Microsoft, but the platform capabilities, so the machine learning, the augmented intelligence, the blockchain, the bots, the IoT, the identity, and others that are part of that platform, what if those could get mixed into building out this kind of a customer experience? And not only those kind of raw elements, but then there are other customer experiences as well. So everything else from the grid that I just showed, that infinite grid, could at least contribute to this environment where new experiences are being built. So when we look at this, we just took a few minutes and said, well, what would that look like, building a better bakery? So we kind of picked it and thought through, what would the AI components be? What would the IoT components, or the bot, or the blockchain? And right now, when customers come to us and they want to chat with us about this, they kind of say, well, let's think about the experience. They want to get to this page to say, okay, but we want it to be, they don't necessarily want to be as niche-y as what we think is really required. So to build out a really compelling experience, customer experience, it's important that you stay niche-y, right? That you stay really focused on who you're building it for and what is the activity you're building for. Now, it's unclear how narrow we go. So it's unclear how granular those activities get, and it's unclear how granular the niches get. But there is sort of a natural resting point that we actually haven't found. When we think about an Alibaba or Amazon, they're sort of taking on the whole grid, right? They're trying to do the generalized experience. And it's our point of view that that generalized experience will continue to bifurcate. So you'll get a narrower and narrower focus. And it really feels like this building a better bakery, that feels like about the right focus in terms of granularity. So when you look at this, what do you think about? You think, well, AI becomes really relevant, right? Because now a bank or an insurance company, really anyone, can target and say these are the AI elements that are going to be relevant to that discrete customer experience. So AIs that we just dropped in here, the average income of people on the street walking by, what to bake for which days based on history, community calendar, weather, parking availability, on and on and on. Optimizing price for the products, business expansion options. Should we expand in this location or other locations? Delivery service options. You think about IoT, well, there could be equipment monitoring, right? Or contents of the refrigerator, or the bot could answer questions for customers, could make recommendations to customers, and so on. And so you start to see how this all fits together into a complete customer experience. And again, it's all those layers, those functional layers. So once that customer experience is built out, now there are new services that are coming onto that platform all the time. So the AI really, someone's AI needs to come in and say, hey, you know what? Hey, bakery owner, there are new micro products that are now available. And these other bakery owners like you think that these might be useful to you. And there could be new data to activate them. So in the refrigerator model, it may say, hey, we'll do auto ordering, but you have to surrender what's in your fridge so that we know what's in there, so we know when to order. There could be monetization of new services. In fact, monetization is sort of key to this whole model playing out, because if you are a bank or an insurance company and you've gotten really good at staffing optimization for a small service business like a bakery or a sandwich shop or a deli or whatever else, but you do that really well, that becomes your new revenue model. Or you package up your data and you say, you know what, these data insights are really important to these particular customers, so they now become the new revenue stream. Or as an insurance company, you may say, here's some risks or some preventative things that they should do. And from a loss prevention perspective, these are some things that you should do. Maybe those are monetized. So you can see that in this whole platform, this whole environment of building out customer experiences that are not aligned to a particular silo, they get blended together and new business models begin to emerge, new areas of monetization. The users themselves can actually monetize as well. So either in an anonymized way or in a specific way, they can surrender some of their data or all of their data back to the platform to sell it to other customer experiences. And then the bank branches or perhaps insurance agencies also participate. So when we think of the future of the branch or the future of the insurance agency, we're really just saying, how do those physical locations, how do those offices contribute to the whole experience? So when we look at the Microsoft cloud or whatever cloud you want to use and that contain all of these services, it really is a very different model, because in the olden days you had software that was installed and that was sort of it. You had to do an upgrade, you had to do some things to have more value, but in the cloud world, those investments are being made all the time. So you have all new functionality being added and available to enhance those customer experiences. So who wins? The winners in this model are those that own the customer experiences. So they either own the experience themselves with capabilities that they bring to the table, or they've partnered with people, but they own that experience. And the reason that that's important is because if you only think, hey, I want to make sure that I'm in the infinite grid, so my services, my insurance products are in, I was just going to flip back quickly here. If I'm in this box, right, if I'm in every one of these activities in the infinite grid, that's great, but it's sort of your future is a commoditized future, because the winner is the entity that owns the customer experience. They're the ones that develop the kind of expertise around AI. They're the ones that actually decide who to purchase from, what transportation service to use. So you look at somebody like an Amazon, and now they become somewhat disintermediated, right? Because the customer doesn't come to Amazon. The customer goes to their customer experience, and the customer experience decides, you know what, there's a napkin provider that's closer, that's cheaper, and has a better rating than what I can get on Amazon. So that's the first piece. The second piece is delivering decisions at scale, or maybe this should say delivering intelligence at scale. So how do you actually monetize the intelligence that you have and make it available onto the platform to be able to monetize that? So AI now becomes, instead of this amorphous kind of, well, we know AI is changing the world, but what does it mean for us? Well, it means a lot, right? It means these 5 problems, these 5 questions for this particular customer set. And then we look at ways to actually sell that out to other customer sets as well. And then the winners are able to quickly adopt new business models and revenue streams, so they can identify, oh, you know what, we have this data, we could sell that. And they establish and maintain trust and security. So that's essential in this new model. So it really is a trusted network in many ways, or it relies on the trusted network. And certainly there is a reliance on a set of partners as well. So what are the recommendations? So it's sort of a big vision, right? It's a big model. But there are things that you can do today. What do you need to do today? Well, you need to establish a relationship with a trusted cloud. You need to understand your customers so you know which customers to go after. You need to pick those customer experiences where you think you have a right to win. Then you need to build that out. And I should have that bullet in here, but the next layer is really building it out. So building that partner ecosystem, figuring out what capabilities fit into that experience, figure out what retail looks like, what transportation looks like, what delivery looks like. If you're a bank, what insurance looks like. If you're an insurance company, what banking looks like, and so on. So you've got to build out that customer experience. And then you have to become good at exploring these business models. Where are the new revenue opportunities? Building out that partner ecosystem to support your experiences, and building out the ecosystem to deliver those added services. All right, that is my pitch. Turning it over to Paul.
Thank you, Steve, and hello, everyone. And Jen's going to be driving slides for me, so if we can go to the first one, please, Jen. And based upon Steve's presentation, it's patently clear that for financial services and the orbiting trends, part of the winners will be those organizations who adopt new technologies and recognize the criticality of their adoption process to achieve the benefits of digital transformation. So as we think about the modern workplace, new technologies are rapidly changing the way we work on a daily basis. The cloud-enabled workforce can work from anywhere, anytime, from multiple devices. And in order to fully take advantage of this new way of working, this requires effective communication and essentially a shift in behavior and potentially a change in the culture of the organization. And this is never more so than in financial services. And so what I'd like to discuss with you is to essentially get to the point where an effective change enablement program will help drive adoption and deliver the results your organization seeks. So my presentation is really based upon conversations that Vitalist has had with clients over the years, and particularly in the last few years, where the focus of the conversation has really been around what are the challenges that Vitalist is observing and the changes that we've observed in respect of digital transformation, and how poor adoption, unless remedied by an effective change and adoption enablement program, will result in the following things. People will not use it. There will be loss of productivity. Organizations will not get the return on investment that they desire. And overall, there's a sense of just inertia that can creep in, and that transformation projects will just continue to fail to deliver. So next slide, please, Jen. So the disruptive nature of this transformation drives a simultaneous need to prepare the organization and the end user. So Steve rightly focused upon the need for the customer experience. We also want to look at the employee experience so that we can maximize results and create an end user that is both smarter and knowledge-abled. Not just knowledgeable, but knowledge-abled. So they are more prepared to accept change and the pace of change that's happening around them. And it almost goes without saying that organizations across many industries, not just financial services, must keep up with the rising digital transformation trends. So it just can't be avoided to remain, unless you want to be uncompetitive and lose market share, then there needs to be this constant acceptance of change. And as transformation occurs, it's natural for the workforce to be apprehensive. So to effectively prepare your employees and help dispel their fears, it is critical to explain the goals, benefits, expectations, and highlight the learning resources to support them through those changes. And as Steve has mentioned, the pace of change is accelerating at a significant pace. He mentioned the Internet of Things, and this will grow exponentially from 2 billion objects, as was the case in 2006, to a projected 200 billion by 2020. And that trajectory is expected across all industries. So next slide, please, Jen. So who can make this change happen? One of the things that we at Vitalist have observed is that successful adoption strategies occur when there is a strong coalition amongst key stakeholders. And while there may be different insights and a different lens into what the overall transformation is aimed at, it does pick up upon, and Steve's points about what does ecosystem look like. And so this can drive a range of questions from, let's say, the C-suite. So, the C-suite is concerned with, what is our overall digital workplace strategy, and how do we create one that works? Are there security issues? What's the organizational impact? Is there a cultural impact? But ultimately, how do we achieve success to maximize ROI? And for project managers, a slightly different angle, but equally important, because they're looking to minimize the disruption and maximize adoption. So for them, what should the business and user experience look like? And should we care? Of course we should. And how can I prevent an unplanned costs and going over schedule and so forth? And then ultimately, from the business end user, what is the change in the business? Why is this change occurring? And what is going to be the impact upon my work? But how do I also use these tools to be more effective, more collaborative? And ultimately, how does this all affect me? So next slide, please, Jen. So the messaging here is that organizational change management is now an essential underpinning for successful digital initiatives. And this has clearly been the case, certainly with my observations of talking to clients in many industries. Not so long ago, conversations around digital adoption or any form of migration would be very much focused upon the IT aspects of it, which are clearly important. But more and more around the table, what we're seeing is people from chief learning officers, organizational change management, digital officers, and so forth. And the conversation revolves around the basic principles of change management, be it through the use of ProSize, ADKAR process, or John Cotter's 8 steps for organizational change. It's clear that the previous approach, where the user focus was sometimes an afterthought, and rather than engaging end users in the process with let's say, an email containing a link to training, for example, which would be sent post-deployment, a far more contemporary approach is taking place, where user adoption is a parallel integrated work stream that includes deployment and involves a greater sense of change management. Next slide, please, Jen. So what is the solution, and where do we go from here? Well, maybe a step back, because the definition of digital transformation has evolved. And since it first entered the business lexicon early on, digital was synonymous with IT. It meant applying new technologies to existing processes to increase efficiency. It meant doing the same thing, but just with new tools. But over the years, digital has matured, evolved, and expanded beyond IT's walls. Today, its definition varies from organization to organization, industry to industry, often team to team. But broadly describing using new tools to do things differently, to innovate, grow, and achieve a competitive edge. So how does Vitalist enable its clients to transform digitally, to innovate, grow, and create this competitive edge? The answer, although it may be simple, it has been some time in terms of putting this together from our experience working with people, working with many clients over the years since 1992, which was the inception of Vitalist. Our Propel methodology is a testament to our human-centered approach. And what we do is we map out 4 key stages of digital adoption. This framework enables clients to understand why and how and when to best help employees. It also drives the development of a broader strategy for cultivating proficiency and a chameleon-like ability to adapt to change. And this is the creation of the knowledge-able workforce that I referenced earlier. And the phases, discover, which is one of assessing the baseline. 2, plan, that designs and creates a learning curriculum based on data. Adopt, where we effectively apply the training and the learning, and this is where we see adoption soar and rise. And then empower, where we look to see where employees themselves are both empowered, create the smarter learners, and we invoke the behavioral change that's required, and the ROI and the investments in the new technologies is achieved. Next slide, please, Jan. So the recommended approach is based on working with, Vitalist is fortunate. We've worked with 60% of Fortune 500 companies. We have an active client list of something like 400 organizations every day. Each one is unique. And often they require a unique solution. And this is the process that we adopt and the approach that we take in terms of managing change and driving adoption. And again, making the basic premise that digital transformation is human transformation, we take a human-centric approach to designing these programs. So strategizing, developing a clear vision for change, communication of the vision, preparing people for change and adoption, creating a culture where constant change is the new normal, using analytics to see where customer success gaps are, and developing this customized, immersive adoption solution for the end user. And so I just want to focus on one bullet there in particular, and that is effective communication. The hardware and application infrastructure changes, while potentially are cumbersome for IT, are only a small part of digital transformation. The biggest part is the people impacted by those changes. And so often changes occur with little to no advanced communication or help to prepare employees to adopt these technologies. Digital adoption fails when too much focus is placed on identifying the right devices and applications. And I'm not saying that that's not important, clearly, but it's the people that use them. And according to research, employees are 3.5 times more likely to experience a successful technology change when desired outcomes are shared in advance. So from our best practices in terms of communication, there are a couple of things that everyone just needs to be familiar with and to promote a successful change and adoption. Firstly, identify the personas that exist within an organization and show empathy to the different types of communication receptors that can be within an organization. Provide clear, objective why and the change is happening and the benefits of it. Answer the question simply, what's in it for me? Tell the employees, ensure that the workforce knows how the tools support them to get their jobs done. Clearly outline what to expect, provide timely awareness about the change and what you can expect and the steps required to make that change. And then ultimately connect them. Connect employees with the self-help resources, equip the workforce with learning resources to empower them and to use the technologies that are available. The next slide, please, Jan. So our solution and services are aligned, Vitalist solutions and services are aligned to our methodology and approach. And I'm just going to take a couple of minutes talking about those key services and how they come together to provide clients with a change enablement adoption solution. So if we look at professional support, these are really the services that give the client the peace of mind to ensure that change can be implemented and effectively with excitement and enthusiasm and overall with a sense of purpose. So one of the things that Vitalist provides is a digital workplace assessment. Our resources will meet with people throughout the organization, including key department stakeholders, project managers, IT, and other champions to help ensure business scenarios tie into existing initiatives and that the organization strives to accomplish. And as I've mentioned, we can provide communication champions who will work with the project team to assess the environment and use that analysis to begin crafting a message in support of the change. Another part of our organization within the framework of our solutions and services are our learning and education services. And we take a holistic approach and offer highly customizable and flexible training options to suit the specific needs and challenges of the organization. These can include instructor-led training, where we can design and deliver custom programs, in-person, group or one-to-one sessions, live, virtual webinars are all tailored to meet the specific requirements of the organization. We have e-learning, online learning is available in multiple formats that we can leverage to complement our traditional classroom training offerings. Self-help resources offering immediate access to information that is personalized to different consumption and learning styles, as well as knowledge videos, short videos that provide information in short bite-sized chunks. Top 5 features of a specific application in 5 minutes that integrates into either into the Vitalist LMS system or a client's LMS system. And finally, our software coaching services, and this is the cornerstone of Vitalist for the last 25 years. And one of the things of which we're intensely proud of is that the 200 or so productivity consultants that provide live how-to support, in many cases, the same people that create the content, go out on-site support, become champions of change, and this has been a very flexible model for us, and one in which many clients have great attraction to. So that live how-to support is available. We have floor coaches, which are the boots on the ground experts that can provide how-to support beyond the service desk. We have a walk-up center, a tech bar offering, which is called POD, Vitalist Productivity Optimization Desks, where employees can get on-demand, in-person answers to tech questions. And then employee outreach programs, which are a proactive outbound calling program conducted by on-demand advisors to identify issues, common issues, often based upon our knowledge of particular applications, and provide support during the deployment and provide, in some cases, white glove VIP support. Next slide, please, Jen. Okay, thank you. So one of the things that we're always conscious of is our ability to work not only with our colleagues at Microsoft, but other systems integrators and in-house resources. And this chart just reflects what we see as our strengths in terms of creating a best total solution for the client. We can work in many capacities, and the strength we see within Vitalist of our offerings are clearly in the areas of adoption and empowerment. But that's not to say that we can't provide specific special roles that integrate with the services of software providers such as Microsoft or systems integrators that may also be part of the process. So, for example, some of these supplemental resources could be our ability to help the project management team. We can help assign key resources to perform digital workplace assessments, and these resources will meet with people throughout the organization and ensure that business scenarios tie into existing initiatives, and we can tee up our learning and development and adoption interventions in a proper sequenced fashion. Other resources are a Vitalist training engagement lead, and it's the training engagement lead's responsibility essentially to learn from the discover stage along with feedback from the project team and develop the overall learning program and schedule that to fit in with the needs of the business and the overall workforce. We have technical analysts who analyze data patterns and offer recommendations geared towards optimizing future rollouts, and these are extremely important in terms of maybe calling an audible where one part of the organization's level of proficiency or usage is not the same as another, and so we can shift and promote other services or reallocate resources into a different area. Next slide, please, Jan. So I just want to summarize with a case study and sort of demonstrate how all this comes together in an effective manner. And we worked with a Fortune 500 bank who was moving its help desk service desk to become a customer experience center, and it was technology that was driving organizational and behavioral change. And because we recognize that change management is a large part of planning for technological deployments, we work with this company's business leaders to identify primary objectives, both for the organization and for employees. We then created a customized training solution for dynamic CRM that would enable the customer to achieve these goals. So by collaborating with business leaders, we enable that organization to understand that there's often this, what I'd like to call between the lines requirement. And that builds out project advocates in the organization, plus partnering with internal subject matter experts facilitates essentially a better understanding of employees' learning personalities, and that helps ensure the delivery of comprehensive training programs. And in this case, it addressed the need of particularly a diverse group of employees. We'll just move on to the second slide, please, Jen. Or the final slide, in fact. And the key elements of this planning phase and the overall effort was the unearthing and addressing of this between the lines requirements. The adoption's human elements and understanding them is what enabled us to guide that organization towards a quicker and more successful deployment. And so when employees have access to the resources that they need, and when they need them, obstacles disappear and the transformation was possible, and in this case was a great success, and that was recognized by the results in terms of creating that organizational readiness and change management success, and improved customer service delivery that resulted in meeting all of the client's objectives when it came to the original business goals. And that is the end of my presentation. So probably I'll hand it over to Jen now to take questions.
All right. Steve, there looks like there's a question out to you here. It says, are there variations in the model that you addressed by region?
Yeah, there are some. And the trend that we see is that in the more mature economies, you see a lot of the major companies, the leading companies, going after. You don't see them going after the niches. You see them going after this broad scale. So, for example, Amazon is going after a much higher level, a much less granular customer experience. In economies where you see more entrepreneurialness, then you see those folks going after the actual customer niche, so the intersection between the activities and the client niche. So that would be a key. That would be a key factor. Alibaba, in China and really the East is driving a lot of these elements. So I would say that they're well on their way to trying to really be the customer experience. But again, the challenge that they face is how do they go granular enough, and can they go granular enough fast enough to, it's kind of a race to the right level. So can they get there quick enough to really own those customer experiences at a granular level?
Looks like there's another question here, Steve, out to you. It says, you've shown us a vision of the future regarding the focus on customer experiences across functional silos. When do you see this becoming the norm?
So, as I said, there are things that you can do today right, that I think are really critical, understanding your customers and so on. So we will evolve to this model. We will evolve over time where the brand experience, the customer experience created by the brand, will become less interesting to consumers, and the activity-focused experience will become more interesting to consumers. And so, and then I think we'll see the same model actually being driven internally. So to basically say, okay, well, what's your role in the company? Somebody would really follow the same path to say, and Paul talks about this, right? So what is that customer niche? Well, they're the comptroller, or they're the chief actuary. What do they do? What are those activities? And so for internal productivity, the same model applies to bring in all of the different elements of the customer experience. So, if I were to put it's hard to put a date on, because it really just will evolve over time. But we see a lot of action already toward this focus. In fact, a lot of the smaller, more nimble banks or insurance companies will say, it makes total sense, we're well on our way. A lot of the larger financial institutions come back and they say, I don't know, we're pretty satisfied with how our business is running right now, which is really interesting.
All right, great, thank you. Paul, there's a question here for you. It says, from your experiences, what are the major inhibitors for a successful adoption program?
I'd say the biggest thing that I've come across that would almost create a barrier to success was a notion that one size fits all. I think increasingly there's a recognition that each industry, each organization, each firm, each department, each team, each individual has differing learning styles, a different culture of learning, either based upon the history of migration deployments or the demographics. And sometimes these things aren't really considered up front when it comes to creating that customized and immersive program. And so, I've observed that. I've observed how do we remediate the fact that we didn't put that thought process into place early on in the discovery and planning phase. So I think it's just that, while everyone will talk about, our organization is unique. Of course it is. Everyone is different. But, not doing anything about it and not recognizing that the training needs and the time availability of, say, somebody on the road in a sales role, as opposed to somebody in corporate headquarters, is often a fatal flaw in deployments.
All right. Are there any additional last questions? I think I saw everything in the chat window. If there are any last questions, we'll take one more. Otherwise, Shirley and I will throw it back over to you.
I would like to extend a special thank you to Paul and Steve for presenting today, and thank you everyone for attending today's event. You may now disconnect.